So the last video we're checking out here is going to be this one right here. It's a video about both New World and the Guild Wars, but it's a video mainly about Guild Wars. The title is Why Now is the Best Time to Start Playing Guild Wars 2, especially if you are leaving New World. Like I just said, a lot of people are leaving New World now because, well, New World is getting shut down. It's going into stasis mode or maintenance mode, and they have been saying that it will basically be in maintenance mode throughout 2026, but after that they might shut it down completely, and they will give you a 6-month notice, I think they said, before they do that. But we pretty much know there's no new content updates coming to New World, and already 70% of players have literally abandoned ship in like a day or two. It is insane. So let's check this one out. I will say I have never played Guild Wars, but I've been this close to giving it a try.
So, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably seen the announcement that New World
Oh yeah, this video is by Deployable Lover, by the way. You will find the link down below in the video description as per usual.
is shutting down, and honestly that news really does hit hard, and I really do feel for the players that were deeply involved in the game still. Whether you played it for a month or for a few years, it definitely had a passionate player base and a really strong identity in my opinion. And as like any game that we're deeply invested in, when something like that disappears, well, it leaves a little bit of a void, doesn't it? It kind of leaves you with the feeling of, well, okay, what now? Where do I go? Now, about a month ago, for very different reasons, I was in the exact same spot, bouncing between games, chasing that sense of home that I kind of feel like I always have. You know the feeling, you just want a game that you can log into, maybe after you've done a day's work, just unwind, and where your progress actually feels meaningful, where it matters, and where the world feels alive. And then, in total honesty, almost by accident, I decided to give Guild Wars 2 a try, as many people have mentioned it to me in the past, and to be fair, I had actually tried this a couple of times before, but it never stuck for some reason.
Yeah, like Guild Wars 2 is possibly the only big MMORPG that I've never tried, but I'm really considering trying at some point. I've played a bunch of Final Fantasy, I've played a lot of Arcade, and I've played a lot of World of Warcraft. I've even played Ashes of Creation, even though it's still in alpha stage. I've been playing that a lot as well. I feel like I've played pretty much all the big games in the MMORPG genre, except Guild Wars, so it might be time to try out Guild Wars at some point. And New World, I have like 500 hours-ish in the New World, which is possibly my least played game, but still.
Reason. I didn't go into this expecting much. Honestly, I thought it would just be another MMO to cross off the list, but well, something happened this time and something really stuck with me. And now I want to share with you exactly why right now I feel personally is one of the best times ever to get into Guild Wars 2, especially if you're coming from the likes of New World or just seeking another home from other MMOs. So let's start with the timing, because timing in my opinion really matters. As of the recording of this video, Guild Wars 2 has just released its brand new expansion known as Visions of Eternity. This expansion builds on everything ultimately that ArenaNet has done over the years. It offers new elite specializations, gorgeous zones layered with exploration, and more story content for people to continue to enjoy. In many ways, people have considered Visions of Eternity to not just be your average content drop. This is kind of a revitalization for the game after some lackluster patches and expansions beforehand. As with every
And so much better mounting than in WoW. Yeah, didn't like WoW's dragon flying system take massive inspiration from Guild Wars, or am I absolutely insane here? I think that's a major reason why they introduced the dragon flying in Dragonflight, because mounting in WoW was so old and outdated. I mean, we had the same flying system since like what, TBC, which is 2006 or 2007. So yeah, it was about time that we got something new, and dragon flying is definitely better. But the mounts here are really cool, a lot of cool looking mounts, and the visuals of Guild Wars, it's really why I'm super interested, the visuals and just the graphics. Insane.
expansion release for most MMOs, the player base is incredibly active, but with Guild Wars 2, the player base is pretty much like that a majority of the time, although I do have to say recently I've seen a lot more fresh faces, popping in, populating cities, chatting around, and having a really great time. It really feels like a true kind of fresh start moment, which is really nice. The cool thing is the barrier to entry if you're brand new is practically non-existent for just trying out the game. The base game is, well, completely free. There's no subscription fees, no credit card needed just to see what the game is about. Now, you can play through the entire core Tyria storyline, explore huge.
I've also been looking at the pricing of expansions, by the way, and aren't they always like $25 in Guild Wars? Compared to World of Warcraft, where they're trying to milk you for all of the cash possible by having the monthly sub, the in-game cash store, the bundles they're throwing at you all the time, the level boost they're throwing at you all the time, the WoW tokens they're throwing at you all the time, and then we have the expansions being, I think, $40 baseline, and then 65 or $70 for the heroic version, and $90 for the epic version, by the way, where you're paying for early access to the expansion.
Huge regions and even tried dungeons, PvP, and world events, all without paying a thing. Now, of course, to address the obvious, there are, of course, expansions and living world seasons, which kind of tie into the expansions and give you a bit of world building that do add a lot of content, and they are paid, but they do go on sale constantly and often for a fraction of the price. I would urge anyone trying Guild Wars 2 for the first time to kind of put that to one side. Just take your time and really only buy in once you know that you're in for the long haul. One thing I feel is really important to mention about Guild Wars 2 is the fact that the storyline really does kind of start out fairly simple and, in my opinion, a little bit lackluster, especially if you've come from games like Final Fantasy XIV, but stick with it because it does get so much better, far better than I could ever have imagined. You essentially just create your character, you choose your background, you're introduced then to the world of Tyria, and yeah, like I said, at first it can feel a little shallow, a little old school, but honestly, stick with it because Guild Wars 2's storytelling evolves massively over time. By the time you reach the later seasons and expansions, you're dealing with some of the best storytelling in MMO history, and I'm really not saying that lightly. I'm talking fully voiced cutscenes, voiced real-time dialogue, cinematic camera work, emotional stakes, and some really clever twists. The writing definitely matures, the characters become more layered and human, and the world definitely reacts to your journey and things happening around you. There are moments, especially through what I've played through in the likes of Heart of Thorns, that honestly I feel rival single-player RPGs. But if you're not a story fiend, it doesn't matter because the best part is the game really doesn't force you to sit through hours of exposition if you don't want to. You can hop in and out, play at your own pace, and when you're ready to dive deep, the lore and the emotional payoff are absolutely waiting for you. It's one of those rare MMOs where the story isn't just something you skip for loot, it actually is something you remember. Next up, let's talk about classes, or as Guild Wars 2 calls them, professions. There are 9 in total, and each one feels genuinely distinct and different. You've got your heavy hitters like the Guardian and Warrior, you've got your sneaky thief, your elementalist, say that twice.
Yeah, why do they call it professions though? It's like in World of Warcraft it's a class, in Final Fantasy it's a job, and over here it's a profession. Guys, just call them classes. This just creates so much confusion though, going from WoW over here, and you're so used to calling classes classes and professions professions, and now it's professions for a class. Like, what are professions here then? Do you have professions? What about being a lumberjack? Can you have skinning and chanting? Can you have those things?
You're summoning necromancer and so on. But what really sets Guild Wars 2 apart, in my opinion, is the elite specializations. Most of the core elite specializations are accessed within the first few expansions, which can be purchased in a bundle, and these aren't just glorified skill trees, they completely reinvent how your class plays. For example, a ranger can become a soul beast, which literally merges themselves with their pet for insane melee and build potential. A necromancer, on the other hand, can turn into a reaper and really kind of hone in on that necromantic melee prowess, swinging your scythe around, spinning in circles, and just annihilating everything. And now, with Visions of Eternity releasing, each profession gets a new elite spec that further expands what is possible in combat, both in group play and solo, so there is a lot to play around with. The result of these elite specializations is that you can find a playstyle that genuinely fits you. It's not one size fits all here. Whether you want to heal, tank, support, or just blow things up from range, there is something here that will feel like home. This then brings us to what might be Guild Wars 2's biggest strength, which is the combat. If you are coming from the likes of New World, this is where you'll probably feel the most comfortable, especially in the MMOs that are available currently, and you may even be impressed. Unlike traditional tab target MMOs, Guild Wars 2 uses true action combat with a hint of hybrid tab target too. In most instances, you actually have to aim your attacks, position yourself, and react dynamically. You can, of course, mix in the tab targeting as well to assist you if you want to. What I love about the combat in Guild Wars 2 is that you're actively rolling out of the way of damage. You're managing your endurance and your stamina to make sure that you're able to get out of the way. You're trying to time your crowd controls, your CCs, and your stuns in the best way possible. Guild Wars 2 really hones in on the fact that they want their combat to be both active and reactive, and in my opinion, they pull it off really, really well. Now, don't get me wrong, some content in the game can be fairly trivial, but there are certain fights that become like a well-executed dance. Skill, awareness, and
The fights he's been showcasing so far, by the way, they look really cool if you ask me. Just the fights, the way you're dodging, the mechanics, the actual combat, it all looks really cool. And having the ability to go both from tab targeting to action combat style, that to me is also really cool. As a WoW player, I'm not really used to the whole action combat part of the game, and having to actually aim my abilities at the boss. I just target, man. I target, press, and sometimes move my character.
timing all matter here. What I have truly come to love is that every class feels like it has an active role. It's got a place on the roster. You're never just standing still pressing buttons on a cooldown for no reason. For example, using the greatsword on my Reaper feels heavy, it feels weighted and impactful, and then when I switch to the staff, it feels like I am genuinely casting Scourge and Plague along the field. It feels like everything I'm doing, every button that I'm pressing really has a meaning, rather than having 30 buttons that I can press that I still have no idea what they do. I guess what I'm trying to say is the system makes combat feel alive. When you win a fight, for example, in PvP, you don't necessarily feel like your gear carried you, it feels like you did. And let's talk about PvP whilst we're on the subject, because Guild Wars 2 really does have you covered. Let's start with the biggest and most obvious one, being world versus world. Imagine 3 entire servers clashing across multiple huge maps, taking forts, defending keeps, raiding supply lines, capturing objectives, building siege weapons, just chaos, right? That's essentially what it is. It's part strategy, part chaos, and definitely 100% fun. You'll see small scouting parties sneaking behind enemy lines, making callouts and tells to their group. Then all of a sudden you'll see massive zergs clashing with each other in open fields, running over hills. You'll see commanders coordinating large groups of players at once. It is truly a spectacle. I mean, it's heavy on the FPS, but it is really, really cool to see. However, don't get it twisted. It's not just mindless zerging. You'll actually earn rewards, achievements, and even PvE progress whilst you're doing it. So whether you prefer combat, support, logistics, whatever it is you decide to do, you're contributing to the war effort. Then you even have structured PvP or SPVP, which is a smaller, more competitive game mode. Here, everyone is pretty much on an even playing field. Your gear stats really don't matter, and it's all about skill, timing, and mastery of your class. I really enjoy that both PvP modes reward you with stuff like cosmetics and currencies and gear that can be somewhat useful for your account, and even if you don't use it, you can then
Yeah, this PvP combat looks insane, by the way. This looks really cool.
construct it into materials and sell it for gold. So everything that you pick up, everything that you get rewarded with, has a purpose. So ultimately, no matter how you like to fight, whether it's large scale or tight and tactical, Guild Wars 2 really makes it worth your time. Now let's talk about something Guild Wars 2 absolutely nails, and that is the world. You see, Tyria isn't just a backdrop.
Also, those wings, by the way, yo, if I can have a transmog like that, that is lovely. Yeah, those wings are insane. Like, kinda ghostish sky, I don't know, shadow.
To me, it is a living, breathing ecosystem. The landscapes are some of the most stunning I've seen in the MMO space. You'll go from lush jungles to frozen mountains to massive underwater ruins floating cities in the clouds, the list really goes on. But what really stands out to me is how interactive the world actually is. There are no real invisible walls here. If you see something in that landscape, you can probably reach it. There are hidden paths, secret caves, jumping puzzles, and treasures tucked away in the corners of the maps that most players wouldn't even notice. Instead of static quest hubs, the game favors more constant change and dynamic events around the world, from the likes of villages getting attacked, players rallying together to defend certain fortresses. In essence, you're not just questing, you're participating in a living world, and that seems to be what ArenaNet is really pushing for. Exploration is a huge part of what makes Guild Wars 2 really
Yo,
special. Every zone feels
that looks
handcrafted, full of
insane.
little details that reward curiosity. It's not just about grinding, it's also about discovering. And of course, we've got to talk about mounts, because Guild Wars
Yeah.
2 doesn't just have mounts, it has the best mount system in any MMO period. It's been said
Okay.
1,000 times, and it will be said 1,000 times more. Each mount has a distinct personality, purpose, and movement style. The Raptor leaps across chasms, the Springer can jump high in the sky, and the Skimmer will float across water and over toxic surfaces. And as much as I'm still yet to get them, the Griffin and the Skyscale are essentially your go-tos for flying traversal. The Griffin, for example, once you learn to dive and soar with it, well, I can imagine I'll never want to walk on the earth again. Then, of course, the Skyscale, which is essentially Guild Wars 2's Dragon Mount. It's not just a mount you can hover, you can climb. It's perfect for reaching hidden areas and feeling truly free in exploration. These mounts, they're not just transportation, they are gameplay
Yo, no,
systems.
no,
You
no, no,
unlock
no.
and
The visual here, though, this zone, whatever zone this is, this would be my favorite zone in the entire game. This looks so magical, man. Oh my days.
upgrade them through exploration and mastery, not
Yeah.
necessarily just by paying for them. Once you've got them, Tyria completely transforms. It really does. Traversing maps becomes infinitely more fun, and it's definitely less of a chore at times. Here is another thing that Guild Wars 2 absolutely nails, and that is progression, and progression that really respects your time. There is no endless gear treadmill here. Just delete that from your brain. We have become hard-coded that that is the only way that you can make an MMO, and honestly, it's boring. It really is boring. Once you reach level 80 and get a set of exotic or then ascended gear, you're essentially done, really, for what you actually want to take part in. You can take that same character, you can play any expansion, raid, PvP mode without needing
Yo.
constant upgrades. Now,
No, no, no. This looks so cool, though. This right here just looks so cool. Is this a boss fight? If this is a boss fight, that is a cool boss fight. If it's just a zone, it's still cool as well, or part of a dungeon or something.
same character, you can play any expansion, raid, PvP mode without needing constant upgrades. Now, of course, there are still long-term goals like legendary weapons that will allow you to swap the stats out on the fly, but these
Oh,
are
yeah.
mainly quality of life and for cosmetic pursuits, really, not mandatory power grinds. Instead, the game focuses on account mastery. These are things like
Okay.
mount systems, gliding, skiffs, fishing, even just earning different rewards for your account that allow you to venture into poisonous gas or go into territories you never could before. These are all part of your account progression. All of these are permanent unlocks that make your account stronger and your experience smoother across every single character. This is the thing that I love about Guild Wars 2, is that making an alt, making another character is not painful. It is really, really easy, and you never feel like you're at a loss for starting something else or trying a different class. This is what makes Guild Wars 2 stand out. It's not just about ticking boxes or chasing the next patch's meta gear, it's about actually enjoying the journey. And for those of you that want a more structured instance challenge, well, there is plenty of that here too. You've got Fractals of the Mist, which are like mini dungeons that scale in difficulty the further
Oh.
you progress. Each one kind of introduces new mechanics, environmental effects, and bosses that will test your understanding of the game systems, providing you've got the difficulty up high enough. Now, at the moment, we also have strike missions, which are shorter but intense encounters that ultimately prepare you for the next level. They're great for casual groups that still want that raid-like thrill, without the heavy time investment. And at the moment, if you're looking for the ultimate challenge, then raids definitely deliver. These will offer multi-phase boss fights that demand coordination, communication, and mastery. And what's nice is that the community is very welcoming to learners. I have often voiced my opinion as a new player of wanting to get into the harder content, and there are so many people that have been so welcoming about trying to get you into that scene, inviting you to Discords. People want you to do this content. But above all else, what honestly ties all of this together is the community. Guild Wars 2 has one of the most genuinely kind and welcoming player bases that I have ever seen. For example, people actually go out of their way after meta events or after open world battles to revive strangers they've never met that are on the floor. People will huddle around people that are unconscious on the floor, get them up so they don't have to spawn somewhere else to travel all the way back. When does that ever happen in MMOs, let alone any video game ever, really? Players in-game can also pay gold to essentially gain the title of Commander, which allows them to host big events or basically head up world versus world events. And it's incredible to see the way that the community respects those titles and follows those people in what they do. It's something that I've never really seen before. I guess the game design really encourages cooperation. You don't really compete so much.
I'm not gonna lie, so far in this video, I'm kind of sold, man. Like, I would love to play in Guild Wars, I really would. The visuals are great so far, the fractal system to me sounds really cool as well. Strike missions, like both strike missions and fractals, sounds like a cool mini version of a dungeon, kind of. The way I'm picturing it in my head, fractals are more of a mini dungeon, and strike missions is a single boss encounter of a mini dungeon, if that makes sense. Is what I'm picturing in my head right now, and the mounts look insane, the visuals are insane, the boss fight mechanics as well, just, yeah, the gameplay. The gameplay is cool. Man, dude.
Much for loot or kills, everyone gets rewarded for participating. So instead of fighting over mobs, you're helping each other. That dynamic is taken out of the equation. And in my opinion, that alone makes the world definitely feel more alive and more forgiving. So I guess to wrap this up, now after nearly 200 hours and a month in Guild Wars 2, exploring Tyria, meeting this community, and realizing how much I love this game, I can honestly say that Guild Wars 2 really feels like home for me now, and I really hope it will for you. So if you're still wondering where to go next, whether you're coming from New World or you're just tired of the same MMO grind, do give Guild Wars 2 a chance. It's free to try, it's thriving, and it might just be exactly what you've been looking for. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider leaving a like rating, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next one.
I am definitely gonna give a like to that video, because that was really well explained, while keeping it entertaining, informative, and not losing my interest at any point in the video. And a good way to just showcase Guild Wars. I will say, after watching the video, I'm sold. I would really like to play Guild Wars, man. I really would. Not a bad video at all.